Hello, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Hi, Lindsay. I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic, but I have a question to start off the day. You ready?
Oh, okay. Yes.
So, Michelle, what do you want to learn in 2025? 2025 is coming up in just a
Ooh.
month, about a month. What do you want to
Yes.
learn?
Oh,
Yeah.
we are already at that time, aren't we?
Yeah. Is there anything you want to commit to or recommit to?
I do. I have been starting to sing a little bit more, and I've been working on music with my friend a little bit,
Cool.
and sing around a little bit. But I would like to actually commit to taking lessons, guitar lessons, or even ukulele lessons. So I,
Ooh.
I actually want to commit to learning that more and feeling more confident in those instruments.
I love that. We're going to check in with you next year.
Okay, okay.
So good. Yes, it's so nice to start a new year and feel fresh in the sense of, hey, I can choose what I want my life to look like, right?
Right,
Very
exactly. What about
inspiring.
for you? What about for you?
Yeah, for me, it's not anything specific I want to learn. It's more of a habit. So I want to start reading novels again. At some point,
Mm,
I stopped reading novels at night and I
same.
started reading the New York Times.
Yep, I
um,
know how that is.
yeah, you know how it is, right? But that's not how I want it to be.
Yeah.
And so I've had some early successes already.
Okay.
And a little
Good.
later in the episode, I'll talk about how I did it. I've mentioned it before, but I've read some great books like The Book of Unknown Americans by Christina Enriquez and What is the What by Dave Eggers. I've read these in the last few months. And honestly, they open another aspect of your life. You start to
Yeah.
identify with these characters. There's a whole
Yeah.
story that
Oh, it's
you
the best.
you share with the characters. It's kind of cool. You know,
Which one was your favorite out of those 2?
oh, they were both great. They were both great.
Okay.
They both made me cry, to be honest. They're both a little sad, but you build your empathy muscle, right? When you hear about the lives of the characters in the book, and it's just another window into another life. So that's what I want to do. But habit is key, Michelle. And I think that all learning comes down to habits. They really
Yeah.
make or break us, don't they?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. You really do need to build a habit
Yes.
to get into something, and it's not always easy. I mean, that's why people struggle with New Year's resolutions so much. It's not
Yeah.
an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and I think when we think about next year, we think about our learning and what we want to learn, what we want to start doing, we can actually make a decision on what we want to do, and then we can just set up the right habits and norms for ourselves. We have more control than I think we do. Don't
Yeah.
you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think well I think even just acknowledging that is huge. Just
Yes.
realizing that you are the one in control
You are the one in control.
and
Yes, I
you
love
can
that.
set up certain circumstances to make yourself succeed or not succeed, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah, today we're going to talk about how we can play an active role in deciding how successful we'll be by
Yep.
setting up these right habits.
Yeah, and we're going to show you the 3 things that we need to know when we set our goal for next year. For a lot of our listeners, guys, we know that many of you are at the B1 or B2 level, somewhere in the intermediate range, and you want to be at C1 or C2 by
Right.
next year. It is possible, but it really depends on your approach, right? So
Yes.
much depends on, every day it's like an opportunity. So we need to know how we're going to get there. Yeah?
Right, right,
Mhm.
exactly. So we're going to talk about the steps that you can take.
Mhm.
But Lindsay, we want to mention something else before we get into those, right?
Yeah, something very special. So this month we are sponsored by Cambly. Cambly gets you speaking with a native tutor right away, and that's why we're working with them. This is a great way for you to get a native
Yeah.
tutor immediately. It's actually amazing, guys. You can go over to allearsenglish.com/Cambly. That's allearsenglish.com/CAMBLY to get started. But we will circle back and tell you about
Yeah.
the special deal at the end of the episode, so you can get all of the details. All right, Michelle?
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how can
Yes.
our listeners make sure this time next year we have improved our English? So
Yes. Yes.
we want to get that notable difference between B1 and C1.
And
So,
yeah,
what are the tips?
and make no mistake, Michelle, it's a big jump, right? Going
Oh,
from
big
B1 to
jump.
C1 is a big jump, but 12 months is a long time, right?
It's true. Oh my
You
gosh. So, yeah, do we
Yeah.
really want to start off on the right foot now that we have the new year coming up?
100%. So we're going to give you 3 things that you need to understand and can do today, getting
Mhm.
started, to set up the conditions to go reach that C1, C2 level by next year. So Tip number one is set up the conditions for success with your English. So this comes
Mm.
back to building a habit.
Yeah.
Convenience is everything. I've learned a lot from my habit of starting to read in the evening, right?
Ah,
So, Michelle, what do we have to know first of all? We have to know what our habits are now, right? What our
right.
tendencies are, right?
Right. And then we need to keep an eye out for or really anticipate potential pitfalls. So, I mean,
Mhm.
Lindsay, with your reading habit, what does that look like?
Yeah. Okay. So, speaking of potential pitfalls, right? What we mean by this, Michelle, is I knew that if I wanted to start actually reading novels, the pitfall was that my phone was sitting right next to my bed. And every time and I've shared this on the show before, but it's important
Yeah.
to reemphasize every time I felt something, I was curious about something, I wanted to Google it, or I was upset about something, I wanted to go to the news to kind of, I don't know, absorb something else or like information overload or something was going
Yeah.
on mentally. I'm not sure what, I think our listeners know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
It's
I know what you're
information
talking about.
addiction in
Yeah.
a way. It's like an
Yeah.
information addiction. And so I knew my pitfall was that if I had my phone next to my bed, I was going to be on my phone. Okay. So
Mhm.
I decided don't leave it up to willpower. Instead, leave it up
Mhm.
to logistics. If I left my phone charging in my office, I was not going to get out of my warm bed to go get my phone and Google something. So what did I
Right.
do? I swapped and I put my book on my bedside table. And now my phone is, 100 steps away in my office. So I then had to buy an old clock because I couldn't
Ah,
use my phone for an alarm.
ah,
Okay.
that's
So what did I do here? I reflected on my pitfalls, my potential ways I might break the habit of what I want to build. I set up the conditions. I made a small purchase. These are all gestures towards getting on the right track. Okay.
yeah. That
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of every once in a while, if I'm snacking on something and then I
Mm-hmm.
don't I'm not hungry anymore, I'm just kind of, mindlessly eating, and then
Yes.
I'll just say to Dan, "Can you put it on a
Yeah.
high cabinet so I can't reach it?" Because you realize you're just eating convenience. It's in front of you. You're just something to do, right?
Yeah, something to do. Exactly, exactly. And so, when you give that example, Michelle, I think you could have a tiny little dish and put a certain amount of food in that dish for a snack,
Right.
and then when it's done, it's done. You know what I mean? You don't have the whole bag. That would be an example of
Exactly.
imagining the potential pitfall is that you could go back
Right.
to the bag, right?
Exactly, exactly. So,
Mhm.
all right. So, guys, what can you do to set up your lifestyle so you will be more likely to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, talking about English directly, set up your
Mhm.
schedule a little bit differently. Build in 15 minutes in the morning to practice instead of
Mm.
watching the news on TV. You are going to need to communicate with your family about this, get their
Yeah.
buy in. And that's a bonus phrase for today, Michelle.
Fine.
Buy
Yes.
in. What is that as a
Yes.
noun? Uh-huh.
It's basically get them to understand or to agree or to accept it.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be in the morning. I like to do the important things in the morning because I feel like I can control my morning more than my evening. There's things can get a little chaotic, right? In the evening or during the day. But you decide when and you set up and you protect that time. So the TV is not going to be
Mm.
on because if the TV's on, it's just tempting, Michelle, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yep.
just too
Yeah.
tempting. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of those temptations, those obstacles. I
Yes.
think that's really smart, just knowing ahead of time, "Okay, this is what could happen, and I'm gonna stop it before it starts."
All right. I love it. So that is tip number one, Michelle, is, understand your habits, understand your pitfalls, and then use the habit, change the habit, and then use it to your advantage. If you think about good
Mhm.
nutrition, if you eat extremely healthy for a year, it's just a habit. It's just as easy as it is to eat poorly for a year, but imagine where
Right.
your health will be. Once something
Mm.
becomes a habit, it's either a blessing or a curse, right? Because it
Right.
could help us
Uh-huh.
or really hurt us. So we want to harness that power with with our English. I love it.
Mhm.
What would be the second tip, Michelle? The second thing we need to understand to have success in 2025.
Okay, so we need to understand what creates confidence in English.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and this is really about speaking experience.
Yeah, I used to misunderstand what confidence really was. I kind of thought all these magical people just were granted by the confidence fairy, I don't know, the confidence dust, right? Would come down. You are going to be a
Right.
confident person.
Right.
No, that is so wrong. That is so wrong, Michelle. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. It's just To me, I mean, have you ever wondered why 99% of the time a 50-year-old is more confident than a teenager?
Yes. Yes, it's true,
Yeah.
right? Of course they are, because they've lived more days on the earth, right? So it's raw experience. So the way this
Yeah.
applies to English is that it doesn't mean a teenager can't be confident or a 20-year-old cannot get confident in English. It's about the amount of time you've spent actually speaking the language.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah.
with anything, the more experience you have with it, the more confident you're gonna be. I mean, Lindsay, confidence is not some magical thing that some of us have been blessed with and others not. I mean,
Right.
in some ways, I think there is some innate difference between people who are a little bit more naturally confident, and sometimes people are confident when when they not shouldn't necessarily be. They're overconfident. They're confident but not prepared, right? That can happen
Yeah.
as well. But we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, I mean, there is such a thing as false confidence, which is someone that might be insecure is pretending to be confident, right? You
Yeah.
can see that sometimes they're masking something else. I'm talking about a quieter
Real.
confidence. I'm
Yeah.
talking about a real confidence that can only be built not by mantras, right? Not by hoping or wishing or rehearsing. No, it's about doing the thing, whatever that thing
Exactly.
is. I mean, for you, Michelle, with your stand up comedy, what did you learn?
Mhm.
Yeah, about confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess this goes back to really any time I've performed, but, with stand-up comedy, the first time I tried it, I was, scared, but I was also excited.
Yeah.
So I think but so that's interesting because you could say, "Why did I feel confident?" It was because that was not the first time I was on stage before,
Mm.
right? So even though I
Yeah.
was doing something a little bit different, I had the past experience of
Yeah.
not being nervous really in front of an audience or having a regular amount of nervousness, of course, no one is not nervous at all. But I had at least gotten up in front of people before. So I think if I
Yeah.
never did that, then I would have been
Yeah.
totally freaked out. But here I was nervous, but excited. And then when I started to do it a little bit more, every time you feel a little bit more confident because you might know which jokes work. You see how the
Yeah.
audience reacts. You play with the timing a little bit. You get rid of what may not be working, and so you do start to
Mhm.
build that confidence.
Yeah, that's interesting what you're saying here because you're saying there are translatable skills. So even though
Mhm.
you were a total beginner in stand-up comedy, you had
Mhm.
other kinds of performance
Mhm.
experience, and so you translated those skills. And if we realize that for our listeners, for example, if you have experience learning another language and maybe you're at a lower level in English, you have already have some frameworks going on,
Right.
and we can keep that in mind, and that can create confidence. It's not like we're totally starting from the beginning because we know how to learn a language. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm.
Right. So, I mean, but if you don't feel confident when you speak right now, speak more, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty
Try.
straightforward, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty simple. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So, if you feel more comfortable, try it in a low stakes environment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, both in groups and one on one, and just really build up that experience so that each time you're going out to speak, it doesn't feel like the first time.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we're working with Cambly this year
Right.
because this month because they do offer the opportunity to book a lesson with a native tutor one on one almost immediately, right? 24 hours a day. It's kind of amazing. I logged
Yeah.
in and saw just a lot of tutors available all the time.
Yeah.
So imagine just booking a quick lesson each day, even if it is just during those 15 minutes that we talked about. Maybe that is how you spend those 15 minutes in the morning.
Right.
It's with a Cambly tutor, right?
Maybe you have
So
a Cambly and coffee.
Cambly and
Yes.
coffee. That's so cute. I love that idea. So guys, stay in the episode. At the end, I will give you more details about the special Black Friday offer that they do have going on right now. But I do want our listeners to know about our third tip, Michelle. And what
Yes.
is it?
This is know where you're starting from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell us
Yes.
more about this, Lindsay.
Well, if we want to have our best learning year in 2025 for our English, how will we actually know by the end if it was our best year? It's
Mm.
by knowing where we're starting now at the beginning
Mhm.
of 2025. What's a famous quote, Michelle, that can apply to this?
Okay, this is by Harvey Mackay, and it's if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there.
Yeah. And
Ooh,
also, I
I
would
love
say if
that.
you don't know where you're starting, you'll never get there. So we need to know where
Mm.
we're starting, where we need to get, and that's the way we arrive at our goal. Okay.
Yeah, right. If you're going somewhere in your car and you are just driving aimlessly, which sometimes sometimes that's okay. You're just going out for a little,
Little
ride or something
spin.
like that.
Yeah.
Right, but if you actually get something accomplished, you need to go somewhere, you have to know where it is you're going.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Exactly. So we need to evaluate our English level now from the beginning, and then we set those clear goals, right? So if you learn that you're at the B1 level, where do you want to be a year from now? Is it B2? Is it C1? Is it C2?
right.
We'd want to write these things down and then
Yes.
even mark in your future calendar into November 2025 and say, here's where I'm going to be. There's
Yeah.
some real magic that can go into that kind of vision boarding, Michelle.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
right. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I put out into the world what you are hoping to have done, and sometimes just writing it down or telling someone that can make all the difference.
Yes, exactly. And this is another thing you can do over on Cambly as an option. They do have a speaking evaluation as a part of
Mm,
their program. And that's one of the things that caught my eye when I was checking out the app for our listeners. You can go right in there and evaluate your speaking level in just a few minutes. It's kind
love
of
it.
awesome. All right.
That is great.
Yeah,
Yes.
because we've talked to a lot of you guys. We know that sometimes you feel your speaking and listening are at a different level than your reading and writing. So you're going to
Mm,
get your speaking level. Okay. Good.
mhm.
All right. Yeah. So time to set up those conditions for success, right, Michelle? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So, guys,
Yes.
get the special Black Friday deal from Cambly, and with
Mhm.
this deal, you can save up to 50% off
Mhm.
of 1 full year of membership.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty exciting.
That's pretty exciting. And a couple other things our listeners need to know. The offer ends November 29th, and you have two ways you can sign up. You can use our special code. That's one way you can get the deal. Here's the code. Everyone, write this one down. It is AEEBF 2024. Or you can go to allearsenglish.com/Cambly to get the lowest price of the year on all plans, including Cambly Private, Group, and Kids. You can save up to 50% in your market, plus new subscribers will get 4 free lessons. Guys, this is only
Wow.
happening until November 29th. All right. So we want to make sure that we get that on time. Michelle, how do you spell that? How do we spell the URL where our listeners can go?
Go to
All ears.
allearsenglish.com/Cambly, which is Cambly.
All right, good. And Michelle, what's our takeaway for today? What is our takeaway?
Well, I think that it's really we have more control over our success than we think we do, right?
Yeah.
So we
Mhm.
don't want to be we don't have to be a victim of bad habits and false beliefs.
Mhm.
But really just real quick, let's go over those tips one more time. Lindsay, what was the first one?
Number 1 is set up your conditions for success. Think about what is your equivalent of what I've done with my reading habit. What is it for
Yep,
you with your English? Okay, that's number 1.
absolutely. I love
Number
that.
2.
Number 2 is understand what creates confidence.
And that is raw experience of whatever you
Yes.
want to get confident with. It's just experience. It's not a magical fairy dust. Okay. Let's get past that myth. That's ridiculous. It's about doing the thing. And that is, in this case, we recommend going and getting a live tutor. Okay. And
Yep.
number 3, what is it, Michelle?
Is know where you're starting from. That's
hmm
how you get to where you want to go, right? You have to know where you're starting and where you're going. What is your actual goal? Write it down, put it in your calendar, and start to see the magic happen.
All right, guys. So go to allearsenglish.com/Cambly. Offer ends soon. This is the special Black Friday offer. Only comes around right now. It will be gone very soon. So go and grab your deal. All right, Michelle. Well, thanks for being on with me today. And I'm excited for 2025. I think it's
Me
going to be a
too.
good year.
Oh, knock on wood. Yes, I'm excited for it too. I'm very excited. 2025 sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening. And Lindsay, thanks for chatting about this with me today. I'm very inspired.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye.